Yes. My name is Lori Blong. I was actually born and raised here in Midland. I went to Rusk Elementary, and then I went to Lamar Elementary over on the south side. Is that even still a school? Yeah? And then I went to SJ, and I went to Midland Freshman and Midland High. And then grew up and moved away for a few years, went to college and came back in 2011. But part of my early career, I was a teacher in El Paso in a really rough school. I learned a lot of stuff the hard way there. But just a regular kid growing up in Midland. I was a little girl, and I had super curly red hair, and I had scabby knees and freckles on my face. You guys can picture a scrawny little girl like that with really curly red hair. And then when I was in high school, I was the girl, kind of nerdy in class, that you probably wanted to be in my group because I was going to do the whole project, right? You know that girl? But I was a little bossy. You ever met that girl in your school? You know who that girl is? Yeah, some of you. You don't know a girl like that that's super bossy and does the whole group project? Really? Well, in my school, there was always some girls like that. That's how it was for me. And then I grew up and went to school and became a teacher for a few years. I was a teacher for 5 years, and I taught high school social studies, so history and geography. Human geography was my favorite class to teach. And then for a few years, I stayed home. I have 3 kids, so I stayed home with babies for a few years. And then I moved back to Midland in 2011, and my husband and I started an oil and gas company together, but then just a few years ago, I became the mayor of Midland. So I am now the mayor of Midland, Texas. And so regular kid with ugly curly red hair and scabby knees here in Midland at Rusk Elementary and Lamar Elementary, and I grew up to be the mayor. And so Carl asked me to come in and talk to you a little bit about civics and the importance of what it is that we do in our community and how we exist together as a community, what makes our community tick. And so the mayor of Midland is an elected position. I serve with 6 other people, and it's like a group project where you don't get to pick your partners, right? Where you get whoever the teacher assigns to you, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's rough. But I'm really thankful for the 6 people that I work with that are also elected. And then we work with Tommy Gonzalez. He is the city manager. And so he is kind of the senior most employed person. He's not elected. He's hired by the city council, but he's running an organization of 1,000 people that keep our city going. And so the way that works is the city council is setting policy. We're making the rules, the ordinances. You got to cut your weeds at your house or at your place of business. You can't have, certain things that are unsafe when you're constructing your building. You got to come for a building permit if you're going to have new construction. All of those things that the city does, the city council helps to set those rules. But we're also working with Tommy and with his team to provide water and streets and all of the storm drainage. You ever been on Wadley when it's raining? What happens on Wadley when it rains? It floods, right? I rode a jet ski down Wadley when I was in junior high. So it's been like that for a long time, but it's the city's job, it's Tommy's job, it's my job to help solve some of those problems. Our parks are a part of what the city does. And so we're in charge of a lot of those things, but we are also in charge of our fire department, and we're in charge of our police department. They work for the city of Midland. And so the laws that the police department are enforcing, most of those are state and federal laws that are set by someone else. Those are not, I didn't set the consequences or any of those things. Our police department are enforcing it, but the way that they are managed as an organization is downline from Tommy. And the same thing for our fire department and EMS. And so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how that's all structured. And then I wanted to talk about some of the things that I think are critically important in our city for us to have a city that works properly. We have 150,000 people, more or less, in the city of Midland, and we got 20 to 50,000 people that live out around the city of Midland, out in the county. And some of those folks get along and do great and are productive, and some of us don't, right? And so there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of working together that has to happen to get things to move forward. Let me go back and talk to you a little bit about my 3 kids. I have a an 18-year-old, so she graduated from high school last year. I have a 15-year-old, he's a freshman this year, and then I have an 11-year-old son, so a daughter and 2 sons. And they're, coming up in the same system that I came up in this community. But there are some values that I think are important for us to learn, and I want to pass this out. My oldest daughter, can one of y'all help me pass these out? My oldest daughter ended up deciding, instead of going to a traditional college, she went to the United States Naval Academy. And this is something that she had to memorize, and then she had to take this like an oath whenever she became a United States Naval Academy midshipman. And I had never heard this. This was something I had never heard until I heard her say it. And it stuck with me, and I think it's really important, and I want you to read it. So open it up. I see you're folding it up where you don't have to look at it. I want you to read it with me. I think this is really, really important, and we're going to talk about some of these points. And I know you're not in the military, you're not going into the Naval Academy, but I think these are the things, these are the qualities that are required. Did you get one, bud? You didn't get one? Do you have some extra? Can you give him one? These are the qualities that are required for us to have a productive life and to have a productive community. So it says, we are united with our fellow midshipmen, so that's all the people there at the academy, by the trust placed in us by the American people, by the trust placed in us by our friends and our families. Under a solemn oath, I accept the honor and the privilege of supporting and defending our Constitution. So she pledged that because of the trust that has been put in her. I strive to develop exceptional character through virtuous living in all I do. I will consistently seek wisdom, to learn that which is right, to practice discipline to align my daily habits with my conviction, to act with courage to uphold those convictions, and to exercise the justice and fairness expected of a leader. I want to break that little paragraph down. Consistently seek wisdom to learn that which is right. So are you born knowing the right thing all the time? Did you come that way? If you've ever been around a 2-year-old, you come knowing how to act like a turkey, right? And we continue to know how to act like turkeys, but we have to continually learn how to do the right thing. I find sometimes even in the decisions I have to make as mayor, I don't always know the right thing to do. Sometimes the right thing is not clear to me, and I have to seek wisdom. I have to call people and say, hey, how do I handle this? I have to have other advisors that are telling me the right thing to do. You've got people in your life that will help you seek wisdom to know the right thing to do. The next one, it says you got to practice discipline to align my daily habits with my convictions. What's a conviction? Does anybody know what a conviction is? If you say, I'm a convicted person, I'm ready to go and do the hard thing because I have convictions. Your convictions are the things that you know are right and true. So that might be helping your buddy out when he's in a tight spot. That's a conviction. Or a conviction might be that you're going to defend your family and your parents. You're going to take care of your mom. That's a conviction. And so those kinds of convictions, you have to align your daily habits with your convictions. The things you think are right, you got to make sure your daily habits support that. So if, in my situation with my kids, it's a conviction of mine that I'm going to raise my kids and I'm going to be there for them. Well, if I'm out all the time and I'm never home, which is a risk when you're the mayor of Midland, Texas, then I have a hard time aligning my daily habits to my convictions. I want to be a mom that's present with my kids. And so to align my habits to that, I gotta make choices that allow me to be there. The next thing is to act with courage to uphold those convictions. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard. That's hard when you're a kid at Rusk Elementary or at SJ or Midland High. It's hard when you're the mayor. You have to make sure that you act with courage to do the right thing. And then exercise the justice and fairness expected of a leader. Let's go on to the next one. It says, I respect and cherish the diverse backgrounds and talents of every midshipman. So midshipmen are all the people that she's in school with. There's 4,400 of them. I think this applies to whatever school you go to. This applies to me as the mayor in Midland. I think this applies to all of us as we live in a community together. This is part of what it takes. We have to respect and cherish the diverse backgrounds and talents of everybody around us. You've got diverse talents and backgrounds. Your background is different than mine. None of y'all have curly red hair and scabby knees, right? You have a different family than me. You have a different story. You have a different path that you've been on, and it's different from the people sitting next to you too. And so you have the opportunity to grow in respect for that diversity and for those backgrounds. I treat others with dignity and respect, both in person and online. Online is one of the most awful places that you can be, right? People are mean to each other online. So we have to treat each other with dignity and respect, not just to their face, but we got to do it behind their back or online when we don't actually see them. We cannot have a good city process, a good city government, without that kind of respect. We can't have good respect in a high school situation or an elementary school situation without that kind of respect. Okay, the next paragraph says, I hold myself and my fellow midshipmen accountable to the high standards of the brigade. We seek support when it's needed. Some of you guys need some support. We were just talking about this out there. Carl Borowski and I were talking about kids that end up in trouble because they don't have help. They're raising their younger siblings, or they have a hard thing that they're having to deal with in their home. And you may end up in trouble because your teachers and the administrators don't know that you need help. You have to seek the support you need so that you don't end up in trouble for something that's really not your fault. And I want you to hear me say, we have a community in Midland that wants to provide you that support. Now, are there people that don't care? Yeah, there are people that don't care. But there are many people in the community of Midland that want to provide you the support that you need. And so if you're in a situation where your household is requiring something of you that's getting you in trouble at school, it's making you truant, or it's causing you other kinds of problems, we want to know and we want to be able to help you with that. And Carl is a great place to start. He's good at helping people find the support that they need. We need to encourage other people to find that support, and we share credit for our successes and our own shortcomings. We win and lose as a team. You may not feel like you have a team sometimes. You may feel like you are all alone and nobody's got your back. But I think it's good for you to find those supports, like Carl, like some of the folks that want to help you in this situation, and invite them in to help be your team. We want you to find that. The last paragraph says, we recognize that our country is counting on us to remain steadfast in our core values of honor, courage, and commitment. Now, you guys are not going into the Navy again, right? I said that before I started reading this. But we have to have these same values just to function together in a city. We have to be able to have these same courage, honor, and commitment. We embrace the inherent risk of the profession of arms and strive for the standard of excellence required to lead our nation's sailors and Marines. This is our call as midshipmen, and it's a mission that I humbly accept. You may not make the choice to go into the military. Totally fine. I didn't make that choice. But I think that these are values that would serve you well if these were things that you chose to adopt. You know, when I think about just serving in city leadership, it's because of a sense of community around me. And I want you guys to have that same sense of community. So, Carl, were there any other things specifically that you wanted me to highlight from a civics perspective?
So, I mean, if you wanted to the point about the election process,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of wanted to know of like, not only is there the city council, what are some of the other things like people can get involved in? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like committees, there's
Mm-hmm.
like people that, you know, they can, if they're interested in that kind of career, what are some of the things, and imagine, I know there's even a kids advisory,
Mm-hmm.
if that's still a thing.
Yep.
But like other committees and stuff that maybe you guys have.
Yeah. So we talked about the city council, there's the mayor and 6 other people, so 7 of us. We hire 5 different people that create the staff, and then those 5 people hire over 1,000 other people. And so that's the employment side of it, and there's a lot of jobs. Tommy can talk to you about some of that in just a minute. But then we also have boards and commissions and committees, like Carl was saying, so people that volunteer to be able to help us decide how are we going to handle our parks, how are we going to handle our airport. We have a committee for that. We have a committee that helps us know how we're going to handle our public transportation and our bus system. And so all of those are volunteer positions that you apply to the city council, and then we choose the people that we think will be best to serve on that committee. So it's not a job, it's a volunteer position in that situation. But there's a lot of other really good jobs at the City of Midland, people that and one of the ones that I wanted you to hear from was Morris Williams, and maybe he'll come back another time, Carl, I bet he will. But he started in Midland driving a trash truck. Like, he went down people's alleys and picked up their dumpsters, and he has now worked his way up to be the deputy city manager of our city. He grew up in Midland too and started at the very bottom and has been faithful to work there for all these years, and now he is second in command to Tommy. And so there's a lot of opportunity for you to get in and get started and work consistently, and you can work your way up. What else?
Well, I'm sure you can open up the questions before
Yeah.
you bring Tommy on, but see how.
They seem super talkative so far. Do you guys have questions for me? No questions? I'm a high school social studies teacher. I'm very comfortable with awkward silence. I can wait.
Well, you gotta know this is like, if they had a choice of sitting in here or not, more than likely they wouldn't be here.
I do know that. I do know that.
Anyways, appreciate you coming.
Appreciate it.
We'll be in touch with the next time.
Thank you very much.